What's going on, guys? Hello. Another blurry fade tutorial for you. Today we're gonna be doing a combover mid fade. Um, Before you tell me that all my fades look the same, you gotta understand that's kind of the point. Like, that's kind of a compliment. That's called consistency. You know, the fade's kind of supposed to look the same. I want you to come back to me every time and understand it's gonna be the same haircut every time. So the fade's gonna look the same. This is actually a good tip for any new barbers trying to figure out how to get rid of that bulk on the side of the hair. You want to put your hands alongside, almost vertical, like 90 degrees, and you cut everything it's above your fingers. And that's how you make sure that the hair, when it's faded and when it's skin, that's how you make sure that the hair is not too bulky up top. Of course, we're gonna go with thinning shears afterwards, but this is how you get most of that hair cut off. And the reason why I start with scissors first is just to lay the foundations. It's the same as debulking, which is why we're debulking right now, but I like to do the top first and then debulk and then skin and then the fade. So yeah, right here at the cowlick, I just want to make sure the clipper will comb. I want to make sure I have enough hair to make the comb over look smooth in the back, because if I cut it too short, it'll stand up, but if I keep it too long, it'll look messy. So that's why I use clipper over comb in that crown area and in this parietal ridge area, just to make sure all the hanging hairs are gone. That's the thing about comb overs. There's going to be a lot of hanging hairs. I've seen a lot of bad comb overs, and the reason why it's bad and the reason why even non-barbers know it's bad is because of those hairs that stick over and hang over. You got to take out those hairs with the scissors, with the thinning shears, with the clip over comb method, and now with the fork guard open. That's how I start my debulk, and now we're about to go into bald guideline. And here I always feel for the occipital bone in the back. Always make sure to start, at least for me, always make sure to start back there. Check for my occipital bone, and then for the front, I always start where that curve begins to go straight, where that C cup starts to go straight. That's where my guidelines usually start. And then I just meet the two together. And then for the beard guideline, I always start where that little, I don't know, I wish I knew what it was called, but that little flap thing in the ear, inside the ear. But yeah, I always start with the clipper closed, because it's easier to take out this bald line, and you'll see why. So now we go with the trimmer. I'm trimming all the way to the line that I made. I'm cutting all the hair off to the line that I made. I want to make sure everything's even. Do not leave any hair with the trimmer. This trimmer, you're going to have to take all the hair off, because if you don't take all the hair off, then when you go in with the shavers, you're going to have to go back with the trimmer, and it's just a waste of a step. So make sure all the hairs are cut off with the trimmer. You want to brush it off, comb it off, whatever. Make sure all of the hairs are cut off. Now we're going in with the shaver. And remember, do not go all the way to the line. You want to go probably like a centimeter below, a pinky below that guideline we just made. Again, make sure all those hairs with the shavers are cut evenly. It just makes the fade pop and stand out a lot more than it would if it weren't for the shavers. This is what makes a bald fade bald, in my opinion. And here's how we take out the line. I flip it over, and I try to almost like flick out and flick down the line. If you just tap it, you'll see some hair is off. If you tap it every time, you kind of get used to that flow, and you'll see that some hair is going to come off, and eventually you won't see that line anymore. Now I go in with the 1.5 guard. This is probably about an inch. I open it up just to make sure, because remember, we're going into that 4.5 right above it, just to make sure the line's even and smooth. I always first go with the guideline, and then I'll just open it up to fade into the hair on top. I still might use it. I'm still gonna use a 2.5, a 3, and all these things, but because I faded it just a little bit, it kind of makes the haircut more efficient in a way. I'm not trying to skip steps, but if you can do your best efforts to eliminate unnecessary steps, then definitely do exactly that. But you want to do that in the most efficient way possible. Efficient means effective, so don't just be fast without being effective. Now we're fading the beard. Um, Beard fade is simple. It's just a fade upside down. You want to apply the same principles to that. And because we use the shavers all the way to the line, I use the trimmers first, and then I go in with the clippers because the trimmers make the bald line, the shaver line, softer, so it's not as harsh to take out. And yeah, it's real simple. No guard, halfway open, and then I close it, and then I play the trimmer, and then that's how you take out that top line. And then I'll go in with the half guard. I'll play with that lever, either close, halfway, or open. And then with the bulk, depending on the beard length, it depends if you need like a 1.5, a 2, or a 3. But with his beard right now, I'm not gonna need more than a 1, maybe. You might not even need the 1 guard, but you really only need the half guard and the no blade open and close. So now I'm going in with the half guard. I'm making another guideline, smaller than the guideline I made the 1.5 guard. And again, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna open the lever and just flick up and out to fade out as much hair as I can effectively. When you do this, you do not want to do too much, because once you do too much, you bringing up the fade, and now you got to start the fade over again. So you don't want to do too much. I do it lightly. I don't try to finish the fade in 2 steps. I really make sure I'm flicking up and out and just taking all the hairs I could. Now I'm doing a no guard open, same thing. I make that guideline even, and then actually now, because I know I just went with the half guard, I'm going back with the half guard and just flicking out with it closed this time, instead of before I was flicking it out with the half guard lever open. So this part, you can definitely say this is like a waste of a step, but for me, it's like, kind of call it like OCD. Like, I want to make sure everything's smooth and even, and make sure I'm doing the same size guard, comb size, and throughout the whole haircut, because that's how you make effective gradiency. Effective gradiency in a blurry fade comes from even haircut, even guidelines, even strokes, even clipper movements. You have to be able to do it evenly, because if it's not even, it's not going to look good. A fade isn't just a fade because your guideline's out. Just because your guideline's out doesn't mean your fade looks good. A fade looks good when your guideline is out and your guideline's even and the blending is even. So that's why when I go with the open, no guard open, and then I play with the half and then the no guard open, I'm able to determine how far up I can go and how far up is too high. So that's why right now I'm going in with the corners, because I don't want to go too high. I don't want to touch that. If there's still some bulk at the top of that fade, that's where I'm going to hit it with the 1 guard. The 1 guard, the 1.5 guard. I don't need to do that with the half guard, and I don't need to do that with the lever open no guard, because it's just the risk that I don't need to take. You want to make sure every clipper stroke is calculated. You don't just cut hair to cut hair. You really want to make sure everything is in line and even, because if you make sure you're even the whole process, then the outcome of that process will be smooth and will look as great as it could look, because you took all the correct steps to make it happen. You can't just wing it and expect to fall on 100% fade every time or something. Now, we've down faded basically everything. Now I'm going in with the no guard, lever close, playing with the lever, playing with the corners, tilting the clipper. When you play with the corners, make sure you're not using the whole clipper. Because if you use the whole clipper, you are risking bringing the fade up. You are risking messing the fade up. So you really want to make sure you're using the corners. Same with the trimmers. I use my corners only. When I'm fading with the trimmers, I use only my corners, because there's just there's not enough room for error. And if you use the whole blade, there's a lot of room for error. But if you use 2 blades of the trimmer blade, there's not that much room for error. And at the bottom, you can play with the shavers. I always go down when I'm fading it because it takes off less hair. So that's how I keep it safe and make sure I'm not taking too much hair off in the fade. But yeah, the rest of this is just detail work. From far away, it looks faded, but of course, when you're there, you want to make sure all the dark spots are gone. And dark spots means the part where all the hair is supposed to be light, it's evenly light. You know, if I horizontally go left on his head and it's light, dark, light, then that means I have to take that dark spot out. So that's what a dark spot is. Now I'm about to shape him up. I'm just clipping up his hair for now and combing down the front hairs. I also want to make sure the shape is right. I saw there's still some overhang from the fade that I didn't get out in the first place, and that's okay. Sometimes not everything's gonna be right the first time. You know, that's why you have a rough draft essay and a final draft essay. So not everything's gonna be right the first time. I use the thinning shears here and a clip over comb to create the shape and eliminate any bulkiness or any wedge in the hair and make sure everything is laid down smoothly. And now with the shape up, he kind of already has a natural shape up, so don't try to do too much. You know, start from the middle, go to your left, go to your right. Just make sure everything's parallel and even. And look, when it comes to a lineup, remember that you're allowed to have a rough draft. So if you're not sure how far to push something back, then don't. You know what I'm saying? So just line it up small. Line it up purposely, like line it up not that far back. Just so that you can take a step back and see, okay, I see here I have to take this side a little bit higher. This side's curving, this side's straight. You know, give yourself room to eventually get to that point where both sides are parallel and both sides are perpendicular and even. Because if you try to make it perpendicular and even on first hit, you might have gone too far. Now you got to push back both sides further than what his natural hairline is capable of. So that's my tip to you when it comes to shaping up. Don't try to be a final draft specialist. Just hit that rough draft first, and you'll figure it out. It'll come out. You know, you can slowly get to that shape up. It's not a problem to keep looking back and forth to get the right shape up. I mean, once you cut the hair, you can't put it back. So don't try to jump corners and switch lanes too quickly. You know, you want to make sure everything's even. And just because you did all your steps doesn't mean the haircut's done, all right? That's why I went back with the trimmer and the shaver and the thinning shears and the clip over comb, because I did all my steps doesn't mean the haircut's done. Doesn't mean the haircut's finished. You know, the steps are just that. They're steps. But it's not like the icing on the cake, the cherry on top, the detail work, the little things. The little things go a long way. So you want to make sure you're paying attention to the little things that'll make your haircut stand out. You know, that's why I get behind them and I look in the mirror to see if the hairline's parallel, or I look in the mirror to make sure the fade is parallel. You want to do that with your guideline too before you even start the fade. I haven't given that tip out. You want to make sure, like, when you do the guideline and the bald guideline, you want to look in front of his face and make sure that both bald guidelines are parallel and even on both sides. Because if they're not even, guess what? Your fade's not even. Your fade's going to be slanted or crooked, or, hey, one side was faded higher than the other side. You don't want that. So make sure everything you do is even and parallel on both sides. It should be congruent. You know, that's the name of the game of a fade, congruency. And gradiency. Congruency and gradiency. That's the name of the game of the fade. You got to have gradiency. There's got to be a smooth dark to light transition. And it's got to be congruent. It's got to be the same on both sides. And the only way to do that is for your process to be congruent. And for your process to have the best outcome for the best gradiency. So yeah, just make sure you focus on the little things and you keep the little things in check. I spray enhancements just to make that lineup pop. I don't really try to darken it that much. I try to keep it looking as natural as possible. You know, I've had people tell me they can't tell that I'd use it, but it's just to make it. That's what it's called, enhancements. It's not called Paint RS. It's not called Paint RS. It's called enhancements. Boom! Nice, congruent, gradient, blurry fade. Thank you so much for watching. If you learned anything or have any questions for me, put it in the comments below. Have a blessed one. Be safe. Take care.